But let's move on to the final topic. I have a ton of energy because we're starting the topic, and it's going to dip like a motherfucker near the end. It is 1,000 degrees in this room, and it got hotter during the day. The heat, I think, is on, and I have a hoodie on, and so does Dave.
Yep.
So we're ready to pass out. So Ricky and Brandon might walk into this, and they might just see us dead or passed out from heat exhaustion.
My last hopes are that they post this.
Yes. So we are going to try to get this through, and we're going to be talking about Sekou Doumbouya's best fit in the NBA draft for 2019. Obviously, let us know down in the comments who you think or what team you think would be the best place for Sekou to land. If you don't know who Sekou Doumbouya is, he will be the youngest player in the upcoming draft. Sekou is coming in, born December 23rd, 2000, so he is a young, fresh 18. He's coming from French. He's coming from France. He was born in Guinea, in Africa, and now he's been playing with Limoges CSP in the LNB Pro A. He's a small forward / power forward, listed at 6'9" and 210 pounds. Dave, we were big on Sekou coming in. Then he kind of had a rough go at it in Limoges in the LNB Pro A. Also had a little bit of a rough time near the end with Poiters Basket 86, his previous team.
Well, he was injured to start this year.
And then he was injured. So he hasn't been
Give him
great.
a little bit of an asterisk.
Yeah, he hasn't been great in 2019, but nothing all around, all of his fault. So looking at him right now, what's his value in your mind for Sekou Doumbouya before we get into which teams fit for him? What's his value? What's his range? Where do you have him kind of falling no later than and going no earlier than?
I've got him slotted purely between no later than the 15th pick, no earlier than 6 in my mind. I feel like he is a great wing prospect. You look at him athletically, he seems smooth, he seems controlled when he's playing. I like a lot about his game. When it comes down to his ability to grow as a player, you see the age really is the first thing. You're like, okay, this kid's young, and I'm honestly still hung up on the fact of his, I think it was the under 18 or the 16U game where he was just balling out and playing better than players who are currently, professional basketball players. So that gives you a lot of hope when, at a young age, he was able to hit that level of success, that he can keep growing, keep getting better. And again, with basketball in Europe, you have to look at the stats with like a mini asterisk going like, yeah, we get it. The scoring's not going to match ours. The pace of play is completely different. The style is different. So you can't just apples to apples college stats versus his current stats. But what you can do is you can look at his play. You can look at his individual contributions, how well he plays defense, how well he spaces out the floor for his team, and how quickly he can move to the post. I look at a lot of the features of his game, and it is promising, but it's not there yet. And I go, okay, he's going to be a project. I truly believe, and I know, Sean, we might be on different ends, but I truly believe he's a project-esque player. This is a guy who, in 3 years, maybe he's going to hit his groove. I know guys who hit instantly, and you get that instant gratification of KP coming on the floor, dropping 20-something, after being booed out of the NBA draft for being taken because you're on the Knicks, unfortunately. that nightmare is over. But I think he's a guy who down the road will continue to develop and just be one of the most consistent players in this class because he's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the speed. I like the game in general. It's just he's got a lot of room to grow still.
I think he has a lot of room to grow, but I don't know if that necessarily makes him a project. I think if you put him in the right situations when he first comes into the NBA, he can thrive. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a starter at all, and I don't think he should be a starter. But I think if you put him in situations where he can use the best of his abilities, like his length, like his driving ability, even his shot in some ways as well. He's also really good on the transition. If you identify early on when you first get a hold of him after you draft him on what he does best, if you put him in those situations, let's say you find him to be an elite driver, which I think he does, which I think he does really well. If you put him in situations where he's cutting a lot to the basket, I think that would help him thrive, and that helps him gain confidence. And I think that's a big thing too. It's just like Frank Ntilikina has not been able to gain confidence at all in New York. And if you're able to put Sekou in a place where he's able to gain confidence, then that will be huge for his ability to take a step up. Because hey, maybe, that confidence allows him to just fire when he's open from three and he starts hitting a couple. Then, hey, my mechanics are right. I know my range. I'm going to keep shooting. I think that's a huge thing for him. And then maybe he starts being a little bit more aggressive on D, forces a couple turnovers. If things start clicking him in one direction, I think it will start all clicking for him in all directions when it comes to his basketball game.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm extremely interested in. So I think he is a project in some ways. I think he does need to be coached up, without a doubt. And I think he needs to have certain attention to him. I think he needs to be treated in a certain way for him to really thrive.
So it sounds like for you, fit is king.
Yes.
If he goes to a team that doesn't, run offensive schemes like the Knicks did this year, where they're just like, screw using any offensive schemes. We're just going to let the point guard or shooting guard use the ball however they feel like it. And, whatever happens, which I just might have a small problem with, Fizdale. That would be a nightmare scenario for him. But if he landed on one of the excellently coached teams, whether he fell all the way or Spurs god awful, unlikely reason they trade up in the draft. Like if he went to one of those teams where they run sets, they run different combinations of movement off ball to get him good looks, good slashes going to the hoop. You think that's the biggest thing for him coming into this draft is really just placement? I
think that would be key for him because I think we see so many times that maybe the culture isn't right for an international player, and that really, hurts their ability. Mm-hmm. I look at Dragan Bender, and Dragan Bender is still an interesting player to me, but Phoenix wasn't the place for him. I don't think he ever connected with anybody out there. Yeah. I don't think he had the ability to really grow at all. They really didn't give him a ton of time, and even when he did, I don't think they put him in the right situations. We look at Luka. Luka, perfect place. He had a mentor in Dirk, and he was just already levels ahead. I want to give a lot of credit to Luka too. But they knew that they were going to give him every opportunity, and they were going to take opportunities away from other players to give Luka opportunities. Let's look at Dennis Smith Jr. That's very true. They didn't need to move Dennis Smith Jr., but they felt like they wanted to, so Luka could just have his own team and let him make mistakes and let him be Luka and let him dominate in ways that he could. And you look at New York. I don't think they ever gave him consistent minutes when it comes to Frank. Where with KP, they were like, yeah, go after it, kid. Like they didn't hesitate. They put him out there. They let him make mistakes. They let him be Kristaps Porzingis, and clearly that worked out well. So I think a big thing is just going to the right place where you can make mistakes, you can be yourself, but then also you're connecting with some players out there. So I have a couple teams out there. The one that I had last time in a mock draft that I absolutely love is Charlotte. I think that's a crazy great fit because he can make connections because they have Tony Parker, who is French. They have Nicolas Batum, who is French. Both players played in the LNB Pro A, the league that Sekou's currently in. And I think that's going to be huge, having those veteran leaderships like Luka had when he had Dirk. Yeah. And I think another part of it is the fact that they are pretty needy for a 3 and a 4. They'd never had a very athletic 4 spot. They had Marvin Williams, and Marvin Williams is obviously a number 2 overall pick, but he's really turned into more of a stretch 4, and they do have a very extremely good 3 in Miles Bridges. But I think
explosive. I don't know if he's really good yet.
I like him.
Yeah, I know you like him, but I'm going to keep you in check.
If they put him at the 4, Sekou, I think playing next to Miles Bridges, who can be a leader, playing next to Kemba Walker if he stays, obviously can be a leader. Learning from them would be huge as well. I think it's a really, really good fit in that culture, and I think that they will be able to give him time too. Monk hasn't been able to get consistent minutes out there, but I think that's more on Malik than anything.
He makes a lot of mental mistakes that cause him to have a short leash.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like it's a second coach. Yeah, it's not like the same coach doing this over again.
He's a bit of a knucklehead.
Yeah.
Well, didn't Jordan even give him the on the back of the head?
He did.
Yeah.
So I think that if Sekou is not making those mental mistakes, or at least he's explained why those mistakes are happening and he's able to correct it, he would be able to thrive at Charlotte. And I really love that fit of the Hornets at 12. If they stay at 12, obviously the lottery hasn't happened. There's still odds. They can move. They can move down. They can move up. If he lands to Charlotte at the right value, 7 to 14, I think it'd be a very good fit for Charlotte. I don't think they move up to 17, but fuck it. But I think it'd be really interesting to see him go to Charlotte.
Yep. I like Charlotte. I think he fits a need, like you said. Coaching staff-wise, it's a good place. Mentor-wise, you nailed it already. I'm just going back to the, like, what's their timeline then? Because, Kemba, if you stay in, is on a supermax, which, good luck. Those have not paid off to anyone yet.
Yeah.
But that makes me wonder, are they going to make some interesting moves to try to accelerate timelines to make sure Kemba can compete? Or are they going to let this young core of Monk, Bacon, Bridges, and Sekou Doumbouya pan out and grow together and roll with them with maybe Kemba in more of a Kyle Lowry role as the veteran point guard on that team by the time they're ready to compete? That's the number one concern for me. I look at Sekou and I love him falling one more spot, maybe. Maybe just one more spot.
What do you like about Miami?
It's Miami, man. They're nothing but professionals, and I understand that this is a team that, could be a playoff team had they had a healthy Dragon Bender the whole year.
This is also a team that doesn't really like drafting international players.
They don't.
They've stated that.
I don't care. I'm just saying it would be a good fit for him. I'm not saying they're going to take him. I'm saying it would be a good fit for Sekou. For Sekou to succeed in the NBA, there's not a team with, I don't think 4 teams that have excellent physical conditioning teams with excellent medical. They have the full package for player development at that location, and Miami is right up there at the top. So I look at that and I go, you get to learn from some of the best in basketball mind-wise. You get to work with training staff that constantly does off-season conditioning programs. They do on-season conditioning stuff. They do the body fat percentage thing, which seems hilariously gimmicky, but at the same time, when you watch them play during games, nobody on their team is gassed throughout any of their games, and they're playing hard 24/7. So I look at that and I'm like, that is the ultimate way to transition from the European play style back over here. They already have Goran Dragic there, who I'm hoping they keep him around. I know this is the last year of his contract, but I think that him another couple of years to make sure if the point guard justice thing is truly a thing or if it was just a one-year experiment. I love his savvy. I think he's an excellent point guard, and him being able to get Sekou the ball easily, ever so easily. Sekou gives them great size, great length, something that they value there. Toughness-wise, you're not going to be on that James Johnson level, but nobody is.
Well, and we were kind of in thinking of the other 4 teams that we have. Atlanta, Trae Young. Washington, John Wall.
Yep.
New Orleans, Drew Holiday, kind of.
Yeah.
He might be playing 2 guard. We're not sure, but right now he'd be the one.
Yeah.
And then finally Memphis, Mike Conley.
Yeah.
The final one that I'm going to talk about is Memphis. The fact that he can play next to Jaren Jackson Jr., those guys can grow together, those guys can mature together. I think that would be huge. And having a veteran like Mike Conley would be massive to him. And they can get him. Mike Conley can get him the ball. I think that's going to be big too. Is I think that the potential of those 2, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Sekou Doumbouya would be so fun. I'm not mentioning Bruno. Would be so fun. I think it'd be super interesting to see. I don't think Sekou would be 2 years from being 2 years away.
Yep.
I think Sekou would be in a place that is just
he get the playing
focusing
time.
solely. Yeah, he get playing time, and they're focusing solely on developing players, and that is great. They're in the culture of not winning. They're in the culture of developing players, and that is going to be huge for someone who needs that. And I think Sekou, being the youngest player in this draft, they already did that with Jaren Jackson.
Why not strike gold again?
I think that would be the smart place for
we all
for
love
him to
that
land.
Jaren Jackson pick, by the way. I think that unanimously we were like, yeah, no, this kid.
Great pick.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. There was not a whole lot of discussion on that.
12 games or 20 games, he was like, holy shit, he's so fucking good.
Kid is amazing.
And then he got into foul trouble every other game.
Yeah, no, limitations. There's a reason he wasn't top pick, but
we knew it was coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wonder with that team, do you like the coaching fit around there? Because non-existent for me. Coaching wise, I don't.
Well, they just fired JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah.
So their coach is non-existent.
Exactly.
So I can't say that I hate the coach because I don't know the coach. But they might.
Okay, let me tweak it too. Do you like the situation that's been happening in their front office? Because I don't know if that's a stable environment to keep young players, to bring them in, build them up, and keep them happy. Because obviously they moved on from the old guard of having
Chris Wallace.
What?
Chris Wallace.
Sure. I wasn't going to talk about him.
I thought you were saying the GM. Oh, Marc Gasol?
Yeah, I was going to say they're moving on from Marc Gasol and potentially moving away from Mike Conley if the price is right. So I don't know, the old grit and grind is gone. What is this new core going to be? I think a lot's going to come down to what they end up for coaching staff, but just from a front office perspective, I have questions about long-term or longevity of player development.
Yeah, I think the question's fair, but I think at least the front office, they're moving away from the old guard. And it's not only just on the floor, they're also doing it in the front office. And I think their idea is to go younger. And they're bringing in Tayshaun Prince, and they're moving away from Chris Wallace as the GM. And I think they're trying to build up a different team and a new look out there. And Jaren Jackson was just the start. And I think Sekou is the nail behind it. I really think this team's changing, and I think they want to completely tear down what they have. And I think bringing in Sekou would be another step towards that. So I understand the uncertainty of not having a head coach yet and the uncertainty of the front office, but it seems like they're making strides to make sure that they're stepping in the right direction. There's even questions still about their owners. I mean, they really don't have an ownership under. So, I mean, those are fair, but I think at least what's currently in place, they're trying to get rid of the old guard and make sure that this is going to be a thriving franchise. And I think that they're a very interesting team.
Fair enough.
Any other teams you want to mention?
I mean, you already mentioned the Pelicans, correct?
I threw out their names because those were the other teams. So if you want to jump in on Atlanta, Washington, Pelicans.
No, screw it. Let's go Washington. I think that's a fun team. Yeah. They've been our wild card bitches, team of the year, I think.
There were 2 in the mock lotto.
They absolutely were. So if they don't get up to 2, and if they get pushed back to, or even at 6, but if they get pushed back a little, that's fine too. Because I think that he could be an instant fit on that team, get minutes right away, because that's a team where they're kind of stuck in neutral. You have an amazingly talented point guard. You have an amazingly talented shooting guard. But beyond that, you've got question marks, and John Wall's hurt for likely the majority of this year. So you've got a year to kind of tinker, in my mind, because I wouldn't put the expectations on Bradley Beal yet again trying to carry this team to the playoffs. Last year, he came damn close to it for a while, and it looked like, he was playing amazingly. I'll just put it that way. So I wonder if you can come in and get Sekou Doumbouya, someone who is talented, yes, but raw, to come in and play on this team and fill in at the 4 where there is a need, in my mind, and get minutes right away. I think he could get 20-plus minutes a game playing for Washington. And I think that could be the start of something special there, because either they're going to be stuck with Wall and Beal forever, which means the guys they've got, they better be happy with looking around that locker room, or it's part of a rebuild and a tear down. And if you're moving out pieces, Sekou, being the youngest player in this draft, is a great piece to keep around in that locker room.
I agree. The one thing that I would worry about is actual player development there, because we look at Troy Brown Jr. last year, and obviously I fucking hate Scotty Brooks. We talked about not hating players, which is true. I do not like Scotty Brooks. I think he's an overrated head coach. I think he's the worst coach in the league. I don't think player development is his skill. I know people are going to bring up, he was Westbrook and Durant's coach. Well, those guys were just naturally gifted and great players. And also, let's look at James Harden. James Harden wasn't James Harden yet when he was on the Thunder. And hey, he had 2 All-Stars in front of him in Westbrook and Durant. And maybe he wasn't getting enough time. But I don't think that Scotty Brooks is a guy that's going to be able to develop and nurture young minds. And I don't think he would be able to do that with Sekou Doumbouya. That's the biggest concern that I would have for them, is the fact that I don't think that Sekou would be able to get enough reps in that facility and on that team. And I think that being around Bradley Beal and John Wall would be huge, but I don't think the coaching staff would be to his benefit. But maybe they fire Scott Brooks.
I say that front office is getting torn down right now as we speak.
I don't know. I think that the personnel around him would be good for his growth.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
I just don't know if the coaching would be right around him. But anyways, let us know where you think Sekou Doumbouya would best fit in the NBA. What team, what spot, what range even? Do you think he's like a 7 through 12? Do you think he's like a 15 to 25? Do you think he's a 2 through 4? Let us know in the comments down below. We appreciate all of your support. If you do want to help us out and support us in the biggest way possible, check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. You can be on a podcast at that gold level tier. You can talk to us on our Discord at the bronze level tier. You can suggest topics at the silver dollar tier. Go check out all of the tiers at patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We want to give a shout out to Ricky. We're giving him a little bit of a break. And we want to give a shout out for him always editing and always being on these podcasts.
Yep.
He is the soul of MVP, so shout out Ricky. He's probably listening to this right now as he edits. So again, shout out to Ricky. Again, let us know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. But for Dave Oster, my extremely talented co-host and keeping me awake right now, I'm Sean Anderson. We will see you next week.